Okay, in this video, I'm going to import, it's kind of a continuation of the prior two videos. I'm going to import the graphics as a DXF file, and I'm going to leave them spaced the way they were, and we're going to add standoffs onto them. My understanding of the way people want to do this is just do a certain size circular stainless dowel, or I'm not sure what material you guys actually use, the sign makers actually use, but it's basically you're setting up a socket so that you can easily locate the correct position for the standoff, and then the letters are indexed to that. So I'm going to do a 4x8 sheet. I'm going to leave it 96 inches wide on screen until we get everything done. Then I'm going to rotate it to send out to the machine. 1/4 inch deep. We're going to cut this for the acrylics and tell it OK. I'm going to import a DXF. I'm going to look to the same folder that we did in the earlier two videos just to have a little continuity there. And I'll take in, they all did the same. So bring them in, and there they are. So if this was to go up on the wall or on the exterior of the building the way it is, what I want to do is mirror this so that I can get to the bottom side of it, the back side, and then place my standoffs. So I'm going to go to the mirror selected items after selecting them, and I'm going to flip them to the right. And so what that did was threw them out here. So now I'm going to have them center on the material. So the spacing is still consistent with the way they were. It didn't change the spacing, it just flipped them over here. And you could have it keep the original or not. I didn't, I just had it flip it. And then I brought them back on the material. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place some circles that are a diameter of, say, 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to place them wherever I want. And I can do it a couple different ways. I'm going to undo that. So Control Z to undo. And I can create a new layer just for the standoffs. And that's the layer that I want to work with right now. And I want to put those 3/4 inch standoffs wherever I place them. You get the idea. I don't really care. They don't have to be lined up, because what I'm going to do is print out the setup of these standoffs. I can either use, if I'm a sign shop, my oversize printers. I'm going to move that one. Or if I'm not a sign shop, but I want to do this today, I'll go back and move those two. I can use the Yeti Stylus kit and use the machine. I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm going to nudge it using the arrows. And then I'm going to go back to draw circles. I highlighted that and then moved it over. 175. And I want that here, 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 and here. And then I'll move them. These 2-inch ones need to go away. I highlight them, hit the delete key, highlight, hit the delete key, highlight, nudge using the arrows to a position that I think is good. Okay, so I've got all those on the one layer. So if I go back to my layers, I can turn off everything except for my standoffs. And I don't need this one out here. Mistake. And then I could export that as a DXF file through VCarve and save that to be printed on one of the big oversized printers that I have. And then I can tack that sheet up on the exterior of the building or the material that I'm putting these letters on, and place those standoffs exactly where they need to be. And then when I place the letters on top of them by turning them on, they will be exactly right. Now I would go do the tool pathing. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do a pocket. That's just a 16th deep, just to locate the dowels or the material onto the dowels. And I'll use a 1/4 inch end mill. That's fine. Just one pass, just mark it out, and I'll ramp that move in over the course of 1 inch. Again, depending on the material, acrylic shouldn't matter. I can adjust my pocket allowance if my dowel is exactly at 0.75. I can make this larger or smaller by doing an allowance here of 30 thousandths, whatever, to give it some slot to just get it on in case I place it wrong. So this is what the pocket allowance is. The larger or smaller than the vectors that I've drawn, because I drew a 3/4 inch vector for my standoffs. But I can adjust it here without having to redraw my nominal size that I use. So I call this pocket standoffs 0.25. And I haven't selected anything yet. So if I go from left to right with a box, anything that's totally captured by that box will be selected. But anything that's not totally selected will not be captured. So I'm holding down the shift key and just adding these other miscellaneous ones, and then I want to calculate that, and that will do the tool pathing for the standoff first. I can look at it, and if I was machining into the back of my acrylics, there's my little standoffs, and then I want to do the border cuts as well. So I'm going to turn on the 2D view. All the tool pathing is done from the 2D view, and the 3D view is used just to help see and visualize. So what you see is what you get. So here I'm going to come down to material thickness plus, so T plus 0.030 equal, and it does the math for me, and I'll use the same bit. And so I'll do that in 2 passes with from the outside of the vector, and I'll do a separate last pass of 20 thousandths, and I'll do tabs or not. Again, I just did an earlier video showing how to do that. I'm not going to do them here. I will add a ramp in and then the lead ins. We're going to get the same errors that we've gotten on the earlier ones where we have to modify the starting points of the geometry, and we get that. I'm not going to correct that in this video. So this will be profile cutouts with a 0.25 end mill. Calculate. I didn't select any vectors, so that doesn't work well. So actually I did select the vectors that were already selected, so they were already highlighted, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to click anywhere and then select just a letter. And I'm lassoing from right to left, so anything I touch or anything that's inside that box will get all of the parts that are inside that box. Now, I have not gotten the standoff pockets this time. That was poorly done a moment ago. And again, we get the same errors about clipping being too tight, and so we're going to preview this. And that cuts them out. If I double click on them, it takes care of the waste in our picture. And we now have, flip it over, we have our sign, acrylic, ready to go with standoffs. So the next step would be to flip this whole thing again, print it out on your printer. You can print it with the letter outlines or not, but that way you know where the standoffs will be. There's any different number of ways that sign makers do this. One of my customers said he would print this off on paper, tack the whole paper up to the front of the building, to the side of the building, and he would screw his standoffs in using this as a template guide. Then he would just rip the paper off. He wouldn't have attached the standoffs all the way in, so they would rip off with the lag bolts that he was using, and he's good to go. You put it on there, rip the paper down, then tighten it all the way up against the facade, the stucco, whatever it is, and then apply the letters. So to do that, we would just grab everything again. We've done this before, and we're going to mirror it. So I've made my G-code. I've saved my G-code over here on this side. I've saved it to the file under the folder. and then I'm going to come back over and just make this ready for template for it. So I'm going to mirror everything to the left or right, doesn't matter. And then I'm going to take the part that's highlighted and center it. And then again, I can play with what is showing up on the printout. Do I want the letters to show up, or do I just want the standoff locations to show up? I will do this, and then I would say File, Export as a DXF, and bring that into my oversized printer. Or if I'm doing it with the Yeti SmartBench, I would take this file and just use the Stylus kit and throw a Sharpie in there and have it quickly knock this out, and it will draw it to scale and locate all of my standoff locations. And I've got the pockets, and I realize I think I only typed in an 1/16 of an inch, but however deep you like to do them, half the thickness of the material, whatever. That's all. I'm showing theory, not the actual setup of how you would do it in your shop. So here we go. That will work, and we're ready to print this out, send it out. Or if I'm doing the Yeti, I can do a profile with it on the line with a Sharpie in the Stylus kit, and change it to doing the Sharpie and not having a depth of cut, just having it drop down a nominal amount. That is my safe zone, my distance above material, less, plus a little bit more, so that it will fluctuate based on any inconsistencies in the height of the material. So I hope that helps. This is Eric Schiller, 205-871-6618, sales at YetiSmartBench.com.